We're not here to make up the numbers, we're here to compete as well. This squad, with the power they have on their day, they can do anything they want. Right everyone, welcome back to the Glassgirls network. I'm here with John, obviously, and Tash and Mike as well, in picture form. The season's over. We've experienced everything Tier 3 has to offer, I think, this season. First off, I think let's summarise Tier 3 as well as we can, John.
Yeah, I think it's been a great journey. I think that the pressure's been off to a point, because we were just talking off camera. We was always kind of like ahead of the relegation zone, so I think that really helped. I say always, I think, come October, November, we was always in the driving seat, and we was gradually just pulling away, getting those 15 points come January. So I think even though we was getting battered on some weeks, we always knew that the bigger picture was to stay up, and I always felt comfortable that we was always going to do that. After probably like the Albion game, really, that kind of cemented it for me. The 7-2 win kind of made me think, okay, it's looking good. So I think all in all, I was happy throughout the season, results-wise. Obviously, just being in Tier 3, I was very happy, and I think you could tell by our podcasts that we felt happiness throughout the season. Chatting to our friends away from camera throughout the week, we was very honoured to play the teams that we was playing. Very nice to see our friends, because they are our friends, the players who we've known for 1, 2, 3 years, if not longer, getting the matches and the respect that they deserve throughout the season as well. So all in all, I think it was a very enjoyable season, very tense towards the end.
Yeah.
When Huddersfield started to pick up those points. Even I was questioning, are they going to get a point against Huddersfield? Are Huddersfield going to get a point against Newcastle or Burnley or Forest and Wolves? Are Wolves going to do something dodgy and let them get a point so we get relegated? All these kind of things. But I think now the league is at lie after 22 games. So I think we were like the 10th best team overall last season.
Definitely. It's been very different. Obviously, no silverware or anything won. No League Cups, no County Cups. It's been really, really different. Do you think it's been sort of what you expected going into this season, or is it different in any sort of way?
Yeah, I think results-wise it was expected. The cups, obviously we done so well in the cups in the previous season. It would have been nice to have had a bit more of a run, but of course when you're playing rugby in one cup and Wolves in the other cup, it's doesn't surprise me really. I think rugby was always a game that we could have potentially won, and it went, it was a draw once until obviously they obviously took the lead and ended up getting it. So Wolves was never going to be possible in the FA Cup. I think it is what it is. It is slightly different season, but I think the only thing that let me down really was the big games. Apart from the weekday nights, the big games against Forest, Burnley, Newcastle, I thought maybe more away fans would have turned up, and that's obviously it's a long journey for them. And you can think to yourself, looking back, well, why should they turn up to Stourbridge? Because they were very likely to win anyway. It wasn't a massive game for them because those teams were probably expected to win. So I think looking back, I would have liked to have saw more of an away crowd from their point of view. And maybe more of an away crowd for us going to some of those places as well. But no, apart from that, I think everything lived up to expectations, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be interesting to see the away crowds next season as well, because obviously we've stayed up this year. This is our second year. I guess people won't just see us as that free hit now, and more people might travel down. I know Newcastle brought decent numbers, but potentially a few more from the other matches as well. Let's talk about our first little topic that we got here. The Huddersfield game. Obviously, the last game of the season. It was emotional. It was a bit of a crazy game, to be fair. What were your thoughts on the Huddersfield game?
Quite a fitting end, to be fair. I wrote in my notes when I was jotting down what we should talk about tonight. I just wrote down the word camaraderie. I think it reminded me of the old days because the pressure was off. Tier 4, Tier 5. We had the season 1, didn't we? Quite early on, and it always looked like we was going to win come like February, March time. So the players were more relaxed back then, and I saw that relaxedness in them in the final game of the season against Huddersfield, and that includes from the coach journey up. You know, there was in good spirits, laughing and joking. The game itself was really enjoyable. All the fans were sitting together. You know, sometimes you go to home games or away games and the fans are scattered around, all going into their favourite positions. But the Huddersfield game, we was all together, weren't we? Everyone was singing with Anthony, taking the mick out of Anthony with his Ali G costume. Bless him. So yeah, I think everything was perfect. And obviously the journey home, it was a 3-3 with draw. So I think Huddersfield were happy, we were happy, or not necessarily happy but content. I think I think it was important not to maybe lose and go out on a whimper. So we got a point and so did they. And then obviously the party at the end of the night as well. So for me, I think it was a great fitting end. I think at that point as well, there was 2 or 3 weeks between the announcement of Mike and Tash leaving to that game as well. So I think players were starting to get used to it. We were getting used to it. The management team and coaches was getting used to it as well. So I think that really helped the positive atmosphere on that day. How did you feel? Because the game itself I thought was fantastic, to be fair, 3-3.
Yeah, the game, you couldn't have asked for a better end game. I'm just so glad that it didn't come down to that date to potentially secure survival or get relegated, because obviously that was something that could have happened for a long time. Yeah. But yeah, no, we were lucky enough to be safe by then anyway. But yeah, like you say, I think it was a really, really good game, really good day out as well. Obviously, like you say, everyone was all together and the vibes were good, the spirits were high, even though it was sort of a weird time for everyone, because obviously Tash and Mike were leaving. We knew it was a last game for a couple of the other girls as well. Yeah, it was a weird one, wasn't it? But like I say, I think everyone, you know, was happy enough, and we sort of then were able to celebrate what is a massive achievement in staying in this league, which resulted in a really, really good night as well.
Yeah, it was. It was a nice celebration at the end. I think celebration that we stayed up, and I think it turned from a celebration to not like one last like kind of moment together as such, but just a bit of recognition for the whole journey. You know, it wasn't just a celebration of tier 3 success. You know, it was a case of, okay, so what Stourbridge achieved, and you know, we kind of with the club announcing like going in a new direction, announcing a new badge, all this kind of stuff. We kind of recognise it as an end of an era, and these players have brought us to that end of an era, finished on a high, and I think we all just recognise the whole journey on that night. You know, having a drink with some of the parents who've been there longer than we have. You know, sharing a few memories there. There was some of the reserve team players and the reserve team managers. Came down after the game as well to celebrate with the first team. So yeah, I think it was just a nice get together, wasn't it, at the end, and it's what the players deserved. And yeah, it was quite fitting, wasn't it? And then obviously that brings us on to the next time it was all together, which was the presentation night.
Yeah, presentation night again, a really, really good night. I think it was good to, like you say, commemorate what's not just happened this season, but what's happened over the past 5 or so years. And yeah, I think that was done sort of that speech that Mike did, I think really, really tugged at the heartstrings for a lot of people.
Included.
Definitely. It was really, really beautiful, all the words that he said. And yeah, you know, seeing the girls get the recognition and sort of closing I think Mike said it himself in one of the press conferences or whatever we did. You know, it's the end of a chapter for Stourbridge. Obviously, we've now moved into a new chapter without him and without some of the other girls as well. But yeah, I think it's important that we closed it on as good as a note that we could have. Which I think was done during that night.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. This is what I was pushing on social media and privately in our group chats and individually. I think it was really important that we finished on a high, because obviously with the announcement of Mike and Tash leaving, you know, it was sad, because it wasn't just them leaving, it's going in a new direction, and you know that several players may not be there next year. You know, anything could happen at this point. So as you say, it was really right that once we calmed ourselves and we kind of got used to it, that we actually went out on a high, and we did that night. And some players got recognised. So we've got a list of some of the award winners, just in case you wasn't at presentation night, or if you haven't seen Twitter, but you follow us on YouTube. Thank you to the 110 people that do have subscribed. So yeah, just read these out first of all. Let's go for the devs first.
So devs, first of all, we have player of the season, Erin Hogan. I think I've personally not been able to watch too many devs games. It's become sort of something that I've come a lot closer to in the back end of the season.
Yeah.
But Erin's really impressed me in every single game that she's played. She's a very young defender, but she's very physical. She talks a lot as well. She's a very good communicator on the pitch.
Yeah. Talks a lot off the pitch as well.
Yes. Yeah.
In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah. Sings a lot as well. But yeah, no, I think she's really, really deserving of that award, because I think she almost encapsulates a lot of what Stourbridge is. You know, she's a great character off the pitch.
Yeah.
And a great player on the pitch as well. So I think she's done really, really well picking up that award.
100%.
One Heart, One Way, Molly May Summers. Of course, it was going to be. It was always going to be. Obviously coming back after the 2 lengthy injuries and absolutely smashing it as well. Like doing so well in the games that I've seen her play. Yeah, it's really good to see her back, isn't it?
Yeah. We saw her in pre-season. I think it might have been the Lichfield game potentially that she was on there, or round about. Like I say, it was pre-season, first time I'd ever seen her. So I joined just after she got injured, and yeah, it was great, because you'd heard all the fond stuff about her, how good she was, but obviously that was at a different tier, you know, 2 or 3 tiers down. So to still be pulling out some of those performances 2 or 3 years later, and potentially if you look at all the pathway players, if she stays with the club this year, this is one player that is, in my opinion, most likely to break into the first team next 100%. Season. You know, she finishes the season on a high. She knows the club, she gets the club. Lovely photo that Richard took on the presentation night of her and 3 other players, because there was always that journey together. So yeah, I think having, you know, Molly May winning an award, it massively makes sense. And the other award went to, I believe, Chelsea Hassel.
Yeah.
That was the manager's player of the season. Again, she had an injury at the start of the season. Ended up scoring a load of goals.
7 in one game.
Yeah, it was the week after Jess Lowe scored.
Yeah.
7 in one game as well. Yeah, I can see why Chelsea would get that. I'm sure April Maguire would have just wanted to hold on to that. I don't think April would have deserved some sort of trophy, you know, even if it was just a golden boot, because I think shout out to April, because she started the season so well in both teams, reserve and devs. But Chelsea kind of picked her to the golden boot, playing a few more games, I'm sure. But yeah, Chelsea thoroughly deserves that award as well, don't she?
100%. And like we said, like with so many other of these players, a player that could easily be teetering on the edge of the first team come next season if she sticks around. Yeah, I think she's got clear quality. We've seen that for a number of years, to be fair. Obviously, if like you mentioned there, a few injuries not really helped her out massive amounts. I think that's probably why she hasn't featured massively for the first team already, just because of that slight injury problem. But yeah, her quality is absolutely clear to see, and I think she's very fitting for Manager's Player of the Year as well.
100%.
Moving on to the reserves, obviously they've done really well in their league. Azara Gibbs double, player and Manager's Player of the Season. I mean, you can't argue with it, because she's absolutely quality.
What an 18 months. Well, you can go further back. You know, I think she won awards previous year as well, but the last 18 months she's like blossomed into someone that everyone looks up to. You know, you look at some of the youngsters, the kids. Obviously, she supports Bailo with the under-15s. So she's obviously got that kind of thing going on there. She's been into the first team as well. So she's been a part of the first team, and she's mopped up 2 of the 3 awards for the reserve team as well. Her confidence is really high, you know, in the clubhouse. I know she was a little shy to do a video, but I think with all the praise, and that's recognition to Mike and Ken, by the way, confidence. You know, players get confidence by the people around them supporting them and letting them be themselves. And you know, I think credit where credit's due there. That's a lot of that would have come from Harry and Ken, praising her up and letting her be who she is and celebrating the success with her. And yeah, to win those 2 awards doesn't surprise me.
No.
It doesn't, because she is one of the biggest leaders in the pathway, if not the biggest leader. I think Lou Butcher will come on to shortly, would probably get that recognition. But all in all, Zara deserves every bit of credit that she's got this season.
100%, 100%. And then, like you mentioned, Lou Butcher, One Heart, One Way award for the reserves. Yeah, again, a great fit for that award. She's been with the club, was it 5 years or so, I think. Yeah, and she's really helped both sides, Devs and Resi's. Obviously, scored a few worldy goals in there as well. But yeah, she's an absolutely class player. She like we said with Erin, like a real leader, a real communicator, a real good sort of leader for both of those squads. So obviously got a bit more experience, had time with the first team previously. I think that really helps in those sort of reserves league and lower down in the pyramid. Yeah, I think Lou's really deserving of that award.
Yeah, massively. I think it's like around about 90 appearances that she's got with the club now. So if she just stay that one more season, she'll be a centurion as well. And there's only been 4 players who've ever got over 100. And if she just stayed that one extra season, hopefully she'll get that. Massively respected around the club. So level-headed, so grounded, so busy away from football as well. So, to be able to invest the amount of time and effort, not just in her own football, but in taking care in other players' football as well, proves why she is that award winner.
Definitely. Right, yeah, moving on to the first team. Hannah Fishwick, Supporters Player of the Year. Yeah, I mean, Hannah is a supporter's dream, isn't she, really? Yeah. She's an absolute character. Yeah, we absolutely love her. And yeah, I think some of this, like, I know when Mike put on that video of sort of the highlights for her just before she got the award, some of the passes are outrageous. Like some of the bits of play, the little dribbles, and a few goals in there, obviously. Yeah, she's done really well this season. I think before the season started, I said we might see the best of Hannah Fishwick this season, and I think we have. I think she's really stepped it up, and yeah, made that sort of 10 almost in behind the striker role her own, really, because I think it's hard to see anyone else that really fits that mould like she does. And yeah, she's done really well for Supporters Player of the Year.
I think she was always going to get like a bit more consistent game time this year, with obviously Lammy and Alex stepping away from the club, or not being able to commit in Alex's case to as many games as maybe Stourbridge would have liked to. So I think Hannah was always going to be around the first team, the start 11 throughout the season the most, and as you say, in that position, that's where I thought she was at her best as well. And she just comes across like so casual, because speed isn't a forte, but the speed's in her head, isn't it? She's so far ahead in that Birmingham Academy. I remember doing a podcast with her and speaking to her, and she said like what Birmingham Academy taught her was like the technical side. And if she grew up with that, no wonder she's like one step ahead in her head. And obviously she could follow instructions, which is massively important at this level. We sometimes as fans think, oh, this player works 10 times harder, this player can score 10 times more goals, but if they can't follow the instruction or the game plan, then they're not going to get the game time. And that's one thing I've learned in the last couple of years, chatting to Andy Fisher and Mike the Mouse, who can follow instructions and who can't. If you can follow their instructions, then you stand more of a chance of playing. And Hannah Fishwick can do all that, can't she? And she's absolutely been a dream. You talk about players who've got the X factor, and I think a lot of the Stourbridge players have got the X factor. That's why we love them so much, and that's why we've been so successful. But I don't think anyone's got it more than Hannah. So yeah, shout out to Hannah, it's fully deserved.
Definitely. Rosie Embley, Players Player of the Year. Again, like a player that's come in this season and just been absolutely class. I really like Rosie. Obviously had a period at centre back towards the start of the season, but then she's sort of progressed more towards the midfield coming into the back end of the season, and I think she's done really well in both. Obviously a lot of experience already at this level, which clearly helps her. So yeah, to to come in to a new team and perform like this and win Players Player of the Year, I think is really, really testament to how good she is and how well she's done this season.
Absolutely. Just two people I wish I'd chatted to more this season, it would be Tash Tesgar and Rosie Embley. And I only just found out recently who her parents were as well. So I wish I spoke to them more about Rosie, and maybe if she's here next season, I can do that. Obviously played a centre back, we didn't bring in a centre back, did we? You know, the idea I'm sure would have been centre midfield, but with everything that went on at the start of the season, I could see why. And presumably she just got on with it, you know, didn't say, oh, I don't want to play there. She actually played there and did really well. Quality player, underrated. A lot of fans actually voted for Rosie Embley as well.
Yeah.
So they said that I didn't see the votes this year. It was Richard Clark who was collecting them. But amazing and very confident away from the pitch. Something that you don't think of because she's quite quiet on a match day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she's quiet on the pitch because I don't really know. I don't really listen to them too much on the pitch. But she's one of the ones that after the game, she doesn't stick around too much. She's not one that sing and joke. But then when she does stay over and you see her on the karaoke and you see her dancing, she is. And I'm sure that what people don't get at home, unless if you're on these coach journeys or at the after parties, you don't actually realise how outgoing some of these players are.
Yeah.
Just seeing Lizzie Bennett still playing a piano, I'm like, where'd that come from? Musicians as well. So you got singers on the camp, you got musicians on the camp. Wish Rosie the best of luck if she doesn't stay, but hopefully if she does stay, we'll get to spend a bit more time chatting and getting to know Rosie more next season.
Definitely. I've got to say, her performance on the way back from Huddersfield, I forget which song she sang now. I think it might maybe
Elvis.
I was going to say it was an Elvis song.
Yeah. Suspicious Minds, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Credit to Rosie for that one. One Heart, One Way award for the first team. Esme Moran. We've got Moran. I mean, again, it's one of the players that has been here, 5 or so years, giving absolutely everything for the club, captained the first team numerous times, 100 appearances as well.
Exactly.
I think Ez has really, really done everything pretty much for us. It's really, really good to see her get the recognition through this award.
Yeah, that's an end of an era for Esme, particularly because she's announced earlier this week, or last week was it? Earlier this week that she's leaving the club.
Yeah.
100 appearances. She was there at the start of the season, and at the end of the season, she captained the team at the start of the season against Forest. Was a captain, I think, on the final game as well. If it wasn't Neve, either Neve or Esme took the captaincy at the end. Fitting winner, forget the fact that she's been at the club for 5 years. Just over the space of the season, you look at where she come from tier 4, stepping into tier 3. She's hit the gym as much as anybody. You see that on all of her Instagram posts and everything else. So she's took it seriously. She's asked what do we need to do to improve. She's managed to keep a lot of decent players out the side as well. Ultimately, a fully deserved winner. What I would say there though is, we as fans kind of guess who's going to win the One Heart, One Way. I think if it was just based over maybe like the one season, I might have leaned towards favour, just purely because of coming in to a brand new club. Yeah, well, the commitment was going to be the main one, having to come from Northampton, and Mike did mention this in his speech as well. It could have easily been favour, I guess. Coming into a brand new club with the character and charisma that Favour has, she typifies a perfect stellar player with that X factor that I mentioned earlier. But I think, I suppose if you just look at the overall picture here, what's happened, Esme's hit 100 appearances, and then obviously said that she's leaving. I think that was a fitting end. And when you look at the One Heart, One Way, if you have a look back at last season, who was our One Heart, One Way winners, and I believe it might have been Lil Beth and Lammy. So you kind of look at the kind of ages and the legacies of the One Heart, One Way winners. It's kind of been that type of mould, hasn't it? So I kind of get 100% why you follow that mould of the Lammys and Lil Beths to now the Esmes. So I thoroughly agree with it, and well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. And then final reward, Neve Murphy, Manager's Player of the Year.
Yeah.
That's a very, very fitting one yet again. Obviously, Neve I didn't really play a whole lot last season. And even towards the start of this season, obviously we had Soph and Levick as well, originally at the back. And then we've had people like Maria come in and Erin and and then Neve's come back. I think I want to say Newcastle was one of her first games properly back in the side.
First time she started, I think.
Yeah, and she put in an outrageous performance. Like it was like she'd never been away.
Yeah.
She's done really, really well to get herself up to this tier because, like we say, she's essentially missed a whole year's worth of football in tier 4. So she essentially jumped from tier 5 to tier 3, which is a ginormous step. To win this award, I think says a lot about how well she's done this season and how she's sort of come back, because I think it would have been very easy to say no, to say it's a step too far for her. But it's absolute credit to her that she's continued going and then clearly done well enough to pick up this award as well.
I think one of the reasons why I like to do these videos and get players on board is so you can see their journeys as well, and I think that might influence some people's opinions at times. So, for example, if you just come straight into Stourbridge this season and you didn't know Neve Murphy from the past, you're absolutely right. You banged on. She didn't play in tier 4 because she was injured. So she's gone from tier 5 to tier 3, and she had to adjust naturally. And Tasha Tesco shouted her out on our previous podcast. Feel free to watch that and go back after watching this one. Out of all the players that she could have named, not just Stourbridge players, but just players that she's played with or coached, she named Neve Murphy. And there's no need to do that. She doesn't have to name Neve Murphy. She could go for any other player. But I think, you talk about the Newcastle game. I'd go one game back. I'd say Stoke away, coming on as a substitute when Dicko got injured. That was a game. And, we completely shut up shop there. The way that she came on, Stoke didn't have any attacks or anything when she came on, and we looked like we was in the driving seat. And at that point, Stoke looked like they was going to bottle it again. Could concede another 1 or 2 goals like they did when they played us at home. So, Neve Murphy, lovely person. Fantastic person, as they all are, but I think Neve Murphy does stand out, doesn't she? And we've known her for 3 years. She started her Stourbridge journey when we started in tier 5, and what a big year she's had as well. Don't forget, away from football, with obviously getting married as well, and just a nice fitting end to what could be an end to her time at Stourbridge as well.
Definitely, and like we say, very fitting on that final day at Huddersfield where she scored her goal. It was really nice to see. She poked it home, Twitter says. But that's all the awards. A massive congratulations to all the winners. Obviously, very, very deserving. Let's move on to away from the first team now. The Devs done really, really well this season. Won their league. Won their semi-final, and now into the final of the playoffs, which is still a bit up in the air.
Crazy.
I don't think anyone knows what's happening with that, to be honest. But obviously, we'll keep our eyes on it when stuff gets announced. But just how well have they done for their first season? Obviously, everything's sort of been a bit all over the place for them, but even still, it hasn't sort of phased them. They've won so many games, scored about 1 million goals. It's absolute credit to everyone that's involved in that side.
Yeah, look, it's our first season of having a development squad, so what you've got to think of is you've had to put together a group of players who, one, are happy to play in tier 7 or 8, whatever it was called, Division 2 and whatever it was. So first of all, you've got to find a group of players that are happy to do that. Second of all, you've got to balance, are they going to be playing in the reserve team or the development team? You've got to balance how many games they can play in each. So if they play for the development team, and then if they jump up to the first team, which some players potentially could have done, then they can't come back down again to play in the development team. There's a lot of a balancing act going on there. And there's obviously some occasions where all 3 teams are playing in one go. So even behind the scenes and the logistics of all that is hard to manage. But they've done it. They played really well. They won the league. It wasn't easy, but they did. And a shout out to all the players, but also the coaches and the people behind the scenes that they had to actually manage this and get this underway. I think it will be easier going forward, not easier winning matches because obviously you're in a higher league. But I think if we do continue this structure with 3 women's teams, I think it will be easier because there will be a natural progression. So the under-16s next season, as soon as they turn 16, the opportunity will be there to obviously put them in. And I think hopefully long term, that will be the idea. So you've got like your under-16s from the previous season who are going to be like the leaders in that team, because obviously they'll be 17, 18 by then. And then the under-16s coming through, as soon as they hit age, they can start playing women's football. So you've got the best 16, 17-year-olds in the area playing in our development team, and then the next level up would be the reserve team. So I think next year there will be a lot more structure. Who's the development team? Who's the reserve team? But I think this year it's just a case of a balancing act. You know, who fits best where in whatever the objective was for that particular game.
Definitely. Like you said, I think that progression is going to be so much easier. There's not going to be the faffing around with who's playing here, who's playing where. Hopefully we'll have a bit more structure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them next season, whatever tier they end up in. I think is it Hereford and Bromsgrove?
I believe so.
In that other semi-final. They've not got long to play it. God knows when it's going to happen. But hopefully, you know, worst comes to worst, we've won our semi-final. We should be progressing in some capacity.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Obviously, Ryan at the helm there. Obviously, he knows his under-16 girls very, very well. So when they come up next season, that's going to be all sorts of fun watching them play week in, week out in proper women's football. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have a whole host of new stars to talk about in podcasts to come. Again, speaking on our pathway, a bit of sad news that came out. Ken, what a guy. He's departing the club, our sort of reserves manager. He's done bits for the devs as well, but reserves manager mainly. What an asset he's been this season to that side and the pathway as a whole, I guess.
I think he was just the type of person that we needed at that time. We speak a lot about culture at the club, and whilst the first team were getting more professional and less drinking, less staying out late, we really relied as a fan base and as a Stourbridge players keeping an identity. We relied on the development team and the reserve team to stay over after games, to come back to the clubhouse and carry on what you know about Stourbridge. So if you go to any club in the area that's got former Stourbridge players or friends of Stourbridge players, you know that our culture is after you win. So after you play a game, win, lose or draw, you come back to the clubhouse and you celebrate or you commiserate all together. And I think it's really important that our reserve team and development team did that. Harry obviously really encouraged that, and he needed someone there with him who felt comfortable doing that as well. And Ken was the man to do that. You know, I know Mike joked about him doing the splits on Christmas.
I'll be honest. I'm glad I'm never seeing that again. Ken doing the splits in jeans. It sends shocks through me.
But he's someone who, if he can be himself and not worry about being laughed at, then his players can see that as well. And I think that's really important, that at that age you can be yourself. And I think we're at a club where you can be yourself, and I think that's really, really great. And it comes from above. If you can see your leaders be yourself and take the mick out of yourself, but also that's just one side of it. You know, we can't comment on the one-to-one conversations he has with players to motivate them, or the tactics side. I mean, we're not there to discuss that because we're not there, so we can't say. But from what we've seen at the clubhouse, fantastic guy, and he'll be missed, absolutely.
100%. I think it says a lot how everyone responded after that news broke in the clubhouse. Obviously, a very, very emotional time for a lot of the players. You know, he's become really, really liked by everyone, by all of them. It's an absolute massive loss. I obviously wish him all the best in whatever is next, in whatever capacity. Thank you, Ken, for all your hard work for us. And then finally, the elephant in the room, I suppose. Obviously, Mike and Tash no longer with us. We need a new manager, and Clements is that man. So Aid comes in. Obviously, worked with Leafield, Boldmere. I'm sure a few other clubs that I'm forgetting as well. A man that comes in with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge of the game. I'm really, really excited to see what comes of the Aid Clements era now.
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown for a lot of people, players, fans, because so like when Fish left and Mike took over, and I mentioned this on the Mike Harris podcast, so I'll plug the Tash one. Let's plug the Mike one as well that we did a few weeks ago. I think it was really important when Fish left that we kind of, it was halfway through the season that we didn't rip everything apart and rewrite everything, and I think that that would have happened if someone brand new came in potentially. And I think this is the right time for Aid to come in now in the summertime, where he's got several weeks now to build a club that reflects what the chairman wants going forward. We talk about this new direction, and Aid's the man to take us into this new direction. I don't know what that new direction actually involves yet. Andy Bulligan said that there's going to be money. So in the awards night, in the presentation night, he said in front of all his loyal fans who was in the room, because if you was in that room that night, you are the most loyal people who put money into the club, whether it be through sponsorship or behind the bar. You're the ones who they interact the most on Twitter or on game day. So he openly says that there'll be money, whether or not there'll be as much as we've had this season, probably not, and I can see why. They've put Aid in charge of this project, and that's what it is now. It's a project of rebuilding a squad that's cheaper than what we've had in the past, but I'm sure the ambition is still to stay in Tier 3, knowing full well that we may drop, because it's not going to be easy. Other clubs will probably get stronger. We're potentially going to get weaker with less money, but if we can stay in the league on less money, then I'll openly say right now that he's done a better job than any of our previous managers to stay in Tier 3 on less money. Then it kind of makes sense that he's done the best job, doesn't it? So he's got a very, very tough job. He's got to probably bring in between 10, 15 players to get the kind of numbers that he wants, whether that be through the reserve team, through his former players, or through trials. And I don't envy him. I think he's got a very, very, very tough job. But obviously, as fans, we always support. We're supporting Mike as soon as Andy left, and we'll support Aid as soon as Mike leaves. And I can't wait to speak to him properly. We spoke to him at games before. Obviously, he supported his daughter Daisy. We see his other half Tracy walking around, and she's always pleasant, always stops and chats to us.
Yeah.
I think she's probably just moving away from Anthony more than anything. But yeah, so look, I'm glad he's someone that we know. I'm glad he's someone that everyone speaks highly of. Before he even joined, everyone says, "Oh, he's a lovely guy, this, that, and the other." So I think that's a good start. But it's going to be very, very hard for him. And I think being at a club like this, he'll be aware of this as well. Every move will be scrutinised more by us, by social media, in the ground. This isn't Leafield and Balmere that just get 1 or 2 likes on a tweet, or that this is Stourbridge now. So if the fans are still there next season supporting, then expect interaction, and that's not a bad thing. Look at the interaction that we've give over the past three years. It's all been positive, hasn't it? Whether it be on this channel or whether it be on Twitter. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a big change compared to Leafield and Balmere.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's just going to be very different, isn't it, for everyone, for him, for us, for the players. Yeah, like you say, I think it's so hard to predict anything at the moment because we don't really have a full idea of who's staying, who's going. Obviously, who's they going to bring in as assistants and coaches and things like that, and who's he going to bring in as players. Yeah, it's so hard to predict how anything's going to go right now. I think give it maybe a month or two, we should have a better picture of what this season could look like.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want us to stay up. We want us to do the best we can. Like you say, I think it's probably the toughest ask that you could ask of him. So yeah, we're going to back him. We want him to succeed. We want the club to succeed. Yeah, it's a new era, a new chapter. So yeah, I'm ready for it. I can't wait to actually just get back there and start spotting. It's only been gone a week or 2 weeks. I want it back. Yeah, so yeah, roll on August.
Yeah, look, just doing these podcasts gets me excited about next season. It really does. And even though the sadness there, I think because we celebrated the end of the season the way we did, it's kind of closure for everybody, including myself,
Yeah.
in that chapter. You mentioned who's he going to bring in with him. You know, we haven't got a goalkeeper coach now, with Aaron Collins obviously leaving as well.
And goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper to coach. Absolutely, yeah. You know, is the structure going to be the same? You know, will we still need a pathway manager? I forgot, head of pathway. You know, or will Harry just naturally fall into Ken's position, or will Harry have a different role, or will I'd have someone in mind for a reserve team manager? You know, will Harry be back in the first team? Is he wasted as a pathway coach? I don't mean that in a negative way to pathway, but you know, does Aid need a real quality first team right hand man? You know, and is Harry the man for that? So lots of questions there. But it's been an eventful season. It's been a happy season, even though it's sad that it's ended. But this new direction, we need to get it started ASAP. So we know where we stand as well as fans, and if we feel this way, God knows what the players feel, because they don't know either, do they? Just yet.
Yeah, it's a very, very confusing time. Obviously, not a lot being publicly disclosed at the moment. You hear things, you hear rumours. Yeah, it's tough to formulate how I feel at the moment, to be fair.
It's
like,
awkward.
yeah, it's very weird. Obviously, people that we've come to love, like Mike and Tash leaving, Aid coming in, not someone that I've ever had too much interaction with, but I'm sure throughout the season we'll come to love him as well. So yeah, it's the start of a new era, start of a new project, new chapter, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be different. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be hopefully fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. And yeah, I can't wait to get back supporting.
Yeah. Well, this is our 7th podcast, fans podcast this season. We did 8 last year, so let's go for 8 again this year, and maybe in a week or two's time, discuss in a little bit more detail about the new project, what we've expected. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, do we? Because it's not even started yet. But it would be nice to go into a bit more detail once all the rumours become facts, so we try and get stories and opinions from both sides of the coin. So we've heard some people talk already, but we haven't heard everybody at the club talk yet, so it'd be nice to speak to a couple more people first, face to face, so we know their points of view. So I think that's really important that we do that, and then it's really important that we feed it back as well, because a lot of fans are in limbo as well. You know, and there's fans out there that probably aren't as close to the club, that don't know anything, and it might be a shock to you that Mike Harris has left. What? He's left? Yeah, he's left. So yeah, but thank you for everyone for a great season, by the way, and thank you to everybody who subscribes to the channel. And if you enjoy reading, go to the digital hub. We'll put a link at the bottom. So if you enjoy reading about the pathway and our girls section, we do that as fans as well, don't we? So lots to discuss. But Kieran, I'll let you wrap up the video, because it's been a good one.
It has. It's been good to catch up. Obviously, everything that's gone on recently, a lot of news, to say the least. So yeah, make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for that next video, the 8th one of the season, where we can discuss a few more facts. So yeah, we'll see you then. See you later. Bash.